This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath with Technique as the green GDI on the bottom side of Tournament Dustbowl and KiMOsaBE as the cyan nod on the top side of Tournament Dustbowl. So it is going to be a classic GDI versus nod, although the only thing that could be a bit more classic is, of course, the color choice if it was red versus blue, because it doesn't get any better than just simply red versus blue. But it is going to be a very simple sort of mirror matchup, no silly, crazy secondary factions, because this is Kane's Wrath. But we are going to be going for just one engineer, it looks like, out of Technique. Yeah, he's just going for that right side Tiberium spike, while KiMOsaBE, on the other hand, it does look like he's going for at least both spikes with some scouting squads. Never mind, one scouting squad going to be heading down the center of the map, instead foregoing actual engineers to instead get out his refinery up just a little bit sooner than Technique. I do believe the timing was just a little bit faster for KiMOsaBE. Technique able to, of course, clean up KiMOsaBE's initial infantry squads, and then he will be able to hold down this Tiberium spike with that foxhole, at least momentarily, as we head into the first war refinery going down for basically both players. Actually, KiMOsaBE's building placement quite possibly a little bit better, although that does leave room for an additional refinery to be placed down next to that war factory and still benefit from those free repairs that, you know, casters are always talking about, that it seems so easy to forget in the actual heat of battle. Both of these players going to be going pretty standard builds, and we are up to now 3 and 2 in terms of refineries, 2 harvesters. First attack buggy is out, which of course Technique is like, hey, I got a scouting squad in your base, and KiMOsaBE has his own scouting squad inside of Technique's base. He's saying, okay, I got 3 and 2, same ratio as me, but on the other hand, Technique, because he did go for those infantry, likely is just going to have just a few less units, as there is an attack bike, or raider buggy rather, going to be heading down the left side of the map. For actually the MCV moving out, so that gets completely spotted by KiMOsaBE's infantry, and not that's a huge thing that it's spotted. It's not like, oh goodness, you're found out, because you would have expected to be seeing a move out to this nearby expansion. It's just, it's so close, so easy to secure, and it does look like Technique is going for a little bit more of a econ heavy, a little bit more of a macro mode. He's playing a little bit greedy. As you can see, basically he built his barracks, built a couple of infantry squads, and then now he's just going econ. He's up to 5 and 2, which is basically a pretty good ratio. It's not bad to have 5 and 3, but of course, you know, 5 and 2, not too off either. But it does look like this one harvester. Okay, so I didn't quite see that scouting squad back up there, but that harvester was able to take them out. The raider buggy going to be sweeping around the right side as the pit bulls do come out for Technique. And does he have his first refinery going down just right about now? Probably, I'm assuming, yes, right there. That first refinery on that second field does go down, which of course should signal KiMOsaBE that he either needs to expand himself because he spotted the MCV on the move, or he needs to do some serious economic damage to make up for the fact that his opponent is going to be expanding on top of that. But it does look like KiMOsaBE deciding to actually just ping the own side of his base, and Technique will spot these bikes rather early, and KiMOsaBE is going to be taking the time to actually kill off that scouting squad, which could be a bit of a mistake, just because now we have 2 and a total of 6 pit bulls going to be heading over here. Just kidding. Well, okay, there's 6 now, pit bulls now, but there was 7 before, and the attack bikes and raider buggy going to be heading off back north as KiMOsaBE decides not to overcommit there, which that very easily could have turned bad for KiMOsaBE in a very short amount of time versus a player like Technique, of course. And now we're going to be pushing into 4 and 2, drafting just another squad. And actually, KiMOsaBE deciding to just now capture that spike. Never a bad choice, really, going for those spikes, but transitioning into Scorpion tanks and still going to be running off of those 2 war refineries. I don't think he's double pumping Scorpions just quite yet, or if he is, this one is actually going to be on hold. So if that's, I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that does need to be fixed at some point. And then going for the man spam just to kind of lock down this tower so he can go ahead and grab it and get that additional income. Never a bad idea. Once again, the scouting squad going to be spotting that attack early on for Technique, which gives him just a little bit more time to say, hey, I got some units coming in. I am going to need to bring some units over here to defend, or maybe even start building a watchtower to try and hold the line there. And what sort of tech? We are up to tier 2 and double airfields, I should say. And one of them is going to be laser fence, so that's an additional $500 that he's spending on top of that, on top of the initial airfield. So I'm imagining that he's probably going to be keeping this. He might be trying to double pump Orcas just to fill that airfield at basically twice the speed, although he could be going for 8 Orcas in this moment, as it would be very good versus the Scorpion tanks. Actually, the perfect unit counter, as where are those militant squads? They are nowhere to be seen, and even on the left side, going to be throwing down that foxhole just to provide extra scouting information for Technique. And yeah, it doesn't look like instead he is going to be going for 8 Orcas, which are of course very powerful in combination with those pit bulls. So you got basically your ground and your air covered, but with the versatility of both of those units, it can be very hard to actually keep a well-rounded defense, just because Orcas can of course fly anywhere. They're not hindered by buildings, and pit bulls are very fast anyways. But attack bikes could be just the thing that KiMOsaBE needs to keep Technique off of him. And actually, with this many Orcas, he can just take down any sort of small force like that out of KiMOsaBE, absolutely no problem. Going to be going for double Raider Buggy out of KiMOsaBE. Is he going to be going for no more man spam? So it actually might be a viable option at this point, considering we don't really have any APCs, we don't really have any tanks, and just as I say that, 5, 6 APCs on the right side with that AP ammo upgrade. So man spam less of an option as it is now than it was just a few moments ago before I even spotted that. But Orca is going to be swinging around on kind of the right side into KiMOsaBE's base as the first SAM turret does go down, and look at that power micromanagement out of KiMOsaBE, just keeping his turrets online so that they're able to get off as many shots as possible. And this is what I was expecting to see a little bit more of, because look at that. 3 pit bulls do go down, a 4th one right there just in a matter of moments, even probably more than just those 4 that we saw within combination of those Scorpion tanks. But now just mass APC, so actually Technique, other than the aircraft not really wanting to move from this tier 1 play, he's just content to kind of sit on that, and he isn't even really going for too much in terms of tech. Although he has expanded to his 3rd field, KiMOsaBE has not quite done the same just yet. He is throwing down SAM turrets all over the place just to try and keep himself defended from those Orcas, because that is quite a few, and just an absurd amount of APCs out of Technique. This is actually kind of absurd, the sheer number that he has. And are they actually filled up with any infantry units? No. So they're just strictly APCs. He didn't go ahead and rebuild that barracks to get any extra firepower within those units. But this foxhole, pretty much, it's decent placement, could be a little bit closer, but that would possibly end up allowing KiMOsaBE to kill off that foxhole a little bit easier. And these Orcas haven't done a huge amount of damage just yet. They are going to be taking quite a bit of damage from those SAM turrets and actually stacking a little bit, which is never a good thing. The physics engine allowing that stacking to just happen all the time. Laser fencing on that War Factory will allow it to survive a little bit longer, but the Orcas aren't really doing anything right now, just now turning to fire, and they are out of range of this SAM turret, but another SAM turret does go down. Not any Tiberium core missiles upgrade on those SAM turrets, but it does look like only 4 Orcas do remain, almost 3. No, 4 will escape for just a moment there, and the APCs are going to have to pull back. A couple of them will get picked off by the Scorpion tanks right now. And then on the left side, actually going to be resuming with the man spam. Where is that barracks? Going for the tech lab, so we are all the way up to tier 3, at least for KiMOsaBE, and going to be taking an outpost to take that 3rd base instead of moving the MCV, so he didn't want to sacrifice build time of his primary build queue. Instead, he was going to sacrifice any sort of base defense build time and just get out that outpost and not have to move his MCV. He might also have been a little bit low on power, although that is quite an easy fix. I don't know of anyone who necessarily is like, oh no, can't move my MCV because I'm low on power, because it takes, what, like 5 seconds to build a power plant? And the man spam actually on the left side, well, not entirely a man spam, just a small man spam, I guess, which isn't really a man spam. But it's a couple of infantry squads on the left side going to be moving in for KiMOsaBE, and they could do some serious damage to these couple of buildings, which wouldn't be a huge deal. Maybe if they could pick off a power plant or 2, that would be slightly annoying for Technique to deal with, as he would have to just rebuild those power plants, and it might even cause some low power issues, although he did sell off the refinery, which is just fine because he has that one over there. But massive amounts of APCs, shatters, and even mixing in a couple of pit bulls, one that is just barely alive at all. So KiMOsaBE and Technique, on the other hand, oh goodness, that is an insane amount of Orcas. Does he have 3 airfields, or is that only 8? He does have 3 airfields, so 12 Orcas in total. If that is 8, I am crazy. I should hope that's not 8. But Technique actually not going to be engaging just yet. It does look like 1 obelisk and only 1 SAM turret, so this is in dire need of more anti-air for KiMOsaBE as the Obelisk goes down in 2 volleys, and here is the Redeemer ready to be sniped by those Orcas, but they need to pull back just a little bit just to stay out of range of those SAM turrets. Here comes an Orca strike, but with not a whole lot of armor out of Technique, he may take serious damage from this. Oh, the stacking from the actual Redeemer. The Rage Gen doesn't quite go off, but the Redeemer is able to basically one-shot a lot of these units, and with the Orcas there, they were able to completely snipe that Redeemer just mere 30 seconds after it did spawn, only losing a couple of Orcas and not even able to save anything with that Hand of Nod. He wasn't able to get an Engineer into that Redeemer to try and get some extra health or some extra repair functionality into that Redeemer. He was not able to save the Redeemer, and it did get sniped quite quickly, although at the cost of how many Orcas, quite a few did go down from the hammering of those 2 SAM turrets. So was it really worth it? From Technique's point of view, probably. Just in sheer terms of that Redeemer engineering facility was not producing any units for that entire time. So any sort of extra bikes that could have been produced, or even Raider buggies to do damage to those Orcas, were not being produced, and then he basically got like, what, 3-4 shots off with the Redeemer before it went down. So pretty good trade-off. Tech Center has gone down, and it does look like no upgrades are currently being purchased, which means no railguns, which isn't a huge surprise. There are basically no tanks this entire game. Has he even built even just a Predator tank? I don't think. But massive amounts of Orcas going for Tier 2, taking out a couple of power plants and forcing the sell-off of a couple of more units, but the Tiberium Core upgrade is now done, and the MCV will get sniped in just a few more shots unless they do run out of ammo, which I do think that they are out of ammo, and with those stealth tanks, they're able to do quite a bit of damage, massive amounts of damage, able to take out 6, and a total of 9 Orcas do go down out of 12, just 3 remaining. Tier 2 already back up, and without sniping that MCV, that was just a huge loss to Technique. He was able to do a fair amount of damage, but actually after taking down that Redeemer, they might be a little bit more equal, although Juggernaut's now going to be bombarding the base of KiMOsaBE. Technique just now about to dry up his 3rd field, which he can even just restart harvesting or possibly even marvesting that original starting location, and even the Watchtower going to be taking a look out for those stealth tanks, which will get the flank on the Juggernaut, and they do have just enough to take out that Juggernaut in just 1 volley, and the stealth tanks are going to try and escape, but they do get spotted by the scan and immediately taken down. Marv Assembly complete or whatever is going to be sounding off as the Marv does emerge, and a couple of Zone Trooper squads are going to be produced out of that barracks to put into the Marv. And is he going to be going for, yes, 2 engineers, and well, probably 2 engineers and 2 Zone Trooper squads as well. And the Orca's just making a little bit of a strike there. But yeah, he is going to be going for Zone Trooper Engineer combo, so you get the extra little repair functionality. And then, of course, the super powerful Zone Troopers and a infantry squad for KiMOsaBE going to be heading around on the right side of the map just for a little bit of scouting information. Just 6 APCs do remain in the forefront of Technique's army, but he is going to be most likely going for somewhat of a final push with the Marv, going to be heading on the left side of the map. Does he have a whole lot else going on? He has a couple of, he's actually going to be bringing in possibly some sniper teams. I don't know what else comes in a group of 3 like that, the infantry squads. But a couple of Shatterers over here, which could be brought into his army. Does he have any other loose units around the map? No, I don't think so. But yeah, the sniper teams are now here to try and deal with any sort of potential man spam that would be coming out of KiMOsaBE, although that may be, no, I guess if he continues to produce Black Hand, but he'll likely just put a 2nd Black Hand squad or an engineer into the Redeemer to try and deal with the Marv. Would not be surprised with either of those choices, but the sniper team's an interesting choice out of Technique. I think he was expecting more of a man spam, because the man spam can be effective, especially when coupled with the EMP Raider buggies. That can be a very effective combination with just mass rocket troopers, and actually going to be stealing some of KiMOsaBE's Tiberium there, and maybe even get a quick crush on one of those harvesters, sniping the... Oh, the Rage Gunner are actually going to be affecting that Marv and taking down a couple, 3 and 4 of those APCs, so that is not good news for anyone. Well, actually, it's great news for KiMOsaBE, but it's able to snipe one of those EMP Raider buggies before it could actually utilize that ability and lock down that Marv for additional damage. But yeah, going for Engineer and Flame, and, well, Black Hand Squad. Not really called a Flame Squad, but the Rig actually going to be showing up to the battle just for additional repairs on that Marv, and I'm assuming also for the Engineer right there, going to be grabbing that Juggernaut husk, bringing it back up to that partial health and actually long-distance harvesting from KiMOsaBE's main Tiberium field. Just a little bit silly. And is that, yes, that is going to be a Spectre firing long range on that rig, completely destroying it, as well as the Juggernaut Husk. So a 2-for-1 value. It's like a great Christmas sale or something for KiMOsaBE. KiMOsaBE actually able to do quite a bit of damage, and he even is not going to be sniping a Harvester at all. So he actually was able to pull back. However, it does mean that that stealth tank will be able to escape the wrath of the Orcas and going to be calling in infantry. So, some sort of two-pronged attack happening out of Technique right here, and who's actually going to win this match? Well, rather the map, not as important, but the match is kind of important. Who's actually going to win this war? It is really hard to say, because at this point it could definitely be either of these players, and the sniper team even going to be getting, I guess, sniped themselves by that Venom. But the Orcas are now here, and one single Venom is not going to be enough to deal with 12 Orcas, and this is just so much damage being dealt to that Redeemer. It's going to have to try and pull back and do some repairs back at home, but with the Redeemer, well, with the Marv right there, Team Technique actually not going to give shade, just going to turn around and not actually head back home. So he just turned around and then turned right back around, heading back to try and do some damage, maybe to the Harvesters if he throws down a scan, but going to be bringing in the Orca Strike to try and do some damage to those actual turrets. Although if you just take out the turrets before the Orca Strike actually gets there, I'm assuming, yeah, there are the Orcas right there. They're going to be taking out one of those little turrets, and then the entire hub just gets finished off. But Technique being able to take something out over here, wasn't actually paying attention. Technique able to do a little bit of damage, but the mine drop out of KiMOsaBE able to do some damage to the Marv. That Marv is in desperate need of repair, and with the rig that actually went down, there are no battlefield repairs, so to speak of, and nothing being produced out of Technique. Technique actually going to be able to do a little bit more damage with these veteran squads, not squats, as they should be moving in, trying to do damage to that MCV. I can't imagine that KiMOsaBE will be allowing anything to happen. Most likely going to be trying to get another SAM turret up and running, but no, it is going to be a Shredder turret team, and they are going to be smartly focusing down the missile squads, as those are, of course, going to be the heavy damage dealers to that Shredder turret, and then pulling his forces back. So actually this engineer possibly going to be hopping into one of those APCs to try and do a cap of one of these buildings. Even the Redeemer engineering facility would not be a small victory in this case for KiMOsaBE, but the infantry getting completely cleaned up from Technique. Technique possibly going in for the final push, and the Rage Generator does go off. The Marv was not affected at all, but the Zone Troopers were. Quite a few of the squads do get taken out. One full squad at least does get taken out. One APC does go down as well. So just some minor damage to Technique's army from KiMOsaBE, which is never a bad thing in a game like this, where you reach the end game and basically all the Tiberium's gone, and then you're like, well, shoot. All of these units are so important, but even Spectre's long-range bombardment, I don't know if that's force firing or if they actually do have vision out there, but so many Spectres. The count coming all the way up to 6, coupled with some EMP buggies, could spell victory for KiMOsaBE or defeat for Technique, although those are the same exact thing. And I think Technique is going to be either trying to swing around to attack from the north side, or he's just going to be going for a flank attack, going for 2 different attacks, actually using that Zone Trooper drop pod to try and do some damage to the north side of KiMOsaBE's base. And if he's able to take down that refinery, that will be basically all of the build radius way out here. But the obelisk is now down. Will they use their jump jets to try and get out of the way of that obelisk? Actually just going to be selling it off, which could be a good choice, I guess, if he's able to do enough damage with those militant squads, as the militant squads, of course, over time will be able to take out those these Zone Trooper squads. But we could very well be seeing a base race and a couple of Vertigos on the south side of the map, coupled with a stealth tank. Are they going to be enough to do any real damage? One Harvester does go down, and a second one will likely go down as well. But Technique has basically just shifted his army. Where in the world is that Marv? I don't even know. It's right back here at the main base, going to be getting some repairs before heading into battle, or at least trying to stave off the army of KiMOsaBE, which is actually completely moved onto the north side because, hey, KiMOsaBE is out of power, and he's actually just going to be dividing and conquering, completely splitting up his army, allowing Technique to effectively divide the army, crush bits of it. Of course, that's going to be a lot easier than crushing the entire thing one go at a time. Even the Rage Generator was not able to do very much, and trying to get off a power plant or two so that he can support some base defenses before it comes down, but the mine drop isn't going to be enough. Yes, it will take out quite a few of the APCs, but the majority of the zone troopers are going to escape, and versus the avatars, if microed properly, the zone troopers will win basically every single time, and the orcas are now here to take out the Redeemer. They will be able to do absolutely massive damage if they get the scan down and able to spot that Redeemer, because it does have its stealth ability. But that is going to be it for KiMOsaBE's northern base, and the MCV did go down, but a Black Hand squad should be able to do some damage to those zone troopers. No, just kidding, because the zone troopers are chilling over here. Actually, a Venom could be the perfect answer to these zone troopers, because zone troopers versus Black Hand doesn't always work out versus the Black Hand. It really does depend on numbers, but I'm not sure who would win. I'm assuming the zone troopers just in superior numbers. Another MCV going to be out for KiMOsaBE, which means that he wasn't. Oh, goodness, and the zone troopers do get kind of taken by surprise right there, and the Black Hand squad completely eliminates those zone trooper squads. So that was not cheap, nor was that fun for Technique, but KiMOsaBE has been having a pretty good time ever since he rebuilt his MCV. However, what I wanted to say about the MCV is, of course, that is production time that was completely taken away from any sort of offensive units. He had to rebuild his MCV, which is all that time taken away from building extra, attack buggies or raider buggies, which he is currently building, or any other sort of Scorpion tanks, or I guess he can't build avatars because he lost his tech lab. But two juggernauts flanking this Marv are going to be the strike force of choice for Technique, and actually KiMOsaBE going to be showing up with 5 Venoms to kind of rain on Technique's parade of orcas, which has been raining terror throughout much of the game on KiMOsaBE, and the horrible stacking could lead to massive amounts of damage or basically no damage from these pit bulls, which are chilling up here. But on the north side, the rage generator will go off, and will it actually affect anything? No, not really. Everything did have attack commands, which is of course a great way to avoid that rage generator, and the orcas do sweep in, trying to do some damage from the pit bulls on these stacking Venoms, but all of the orcas will go down, and the Marv does get EMP'd. Will the Redeemer be able to do enough damage? The Juggernauts get EMP'd as well, and the mortars from the pit bulls actually doing a little bit of damage, just a teeny tiny bit of damage to those Juggernauts. But here come the engineer, or the Hand of Nod, basically for some anti-tank missile squads going to be coming out, and then of course able to grab the Juggernaut husks with any sort of engineer once Technique gets pushed out of there. But Technique going to be sniping his own Juggernaut husks, staying on top of that. The Redeemer going to be charging forward, which could be a mistake, although with infantry support, it may not be a mistake at all. With lots of missile squads going to be out for KiMOsaBE, he should be able to hold the line and at least push these pit bulls back, and neither one of these players has the money to make any real mistakes. Are we going to see the orcas swoop in at the last moment to try and do some massive damage to this? Oh no, the Shockwave Artillery instead going to be swooping in, but it totally misses, and it may actually do some damage to the pit bulls. No, it did just run out just in time for those pit bulls. So actually using the Marv to clear out the infantry so that the pit bulls can get in and kind of spot the army for Technique. KiMOsaBE has a lot of stealth in his army, with the Harvesters going to be taking some econ damage, which isn't that important in the game where there's not a whole lot of economy left to be had. But Technique going to be trying to crush this Marv, which is really the last hope for KiMOsaBE, as he has been, most of his base has been reduced. While on the other hand, if you look at the map, Technique does have quite a sprawling base that has taken very little damage over time from KiMOsaBE. So one final attack buggy will be able to get off an EMP blast and do some damage. No, he will not be able to. I'm not actually sure what happened. It almost looked like that Spectre did some splash damage to that attack buggy, although I'm not 100% sure. And a third attack buggy going to be out already, so not quite out of money. Technique is still good on health on the Marv, so I'm not sure exactly why he's going to be pulling back, as the Redeemer is almost dead, but the mortars, or the pit bulls, going to be revealing the Redeemer for just a second, and then they are going to be pulling back. But more and more attack buggy, raider buggies out of KiMOsaBE is not good news for Technique, because every one of those raider buggies is of course a separate chance, and it looks like to me that he's going to be spreading out his raider buggies so that he basically is going to have a wave of surrounding raider buggies coming in and actually going to be taking out the pit bulls completely, which means it's time to head in and try and take down this Marv. But is the micro going to be good enough? One EMP buggy does go off, and then the other ones do go off, and they all kind of just EMP each other. but one does in fact keep itself alive, and Technique going to be taking massive amounts of damage from this Redeemer, although will it be enough with these Zone Trooper squads in there? Will it be enough to actually take down the Marv, or will the Marv reign supreme over the Redeemer? Also, that Marv is already at that one, he is already a veteran, while the Redeemer has no rank at all, but the Spectre is going to be able to take down, or rather one Spectre going to be able to take down that Juggernaut right there, able to finally get that down, and with no engineers in sight, and actually Technique is like, I'm not even going to bother with engineers. A third MCV now out for KiMOsaBE, so once again he did have to spend that money and drop that production time, while Zone Trooper is going to be the unit of choice for Technique. And Technique somehow still has the money to produce these Tier 3 infantry units. They are fairly expensive. He isn't producing anything out of his Reclamator hub, and he's still being able to call down some of those support powers, as we saw just a moment ago, and going to be trying to repair up their units, but with not actually enough money to constantly repair that engineering, or the Redeemer engineering facility, it might actually be more cost-effective in a moment's notice to just throw down a barracks and then get out an engineer, although that would be $1,000 that could be better spent somewhere else. So choices, of course, that you have to make in throwing down a couple of AA batteries. Technique could definitely sell those off, as there is no aircraft left for KiMOsaBE. Yeah, just a couple of infantry units going to be moving on the right side of the map, which of course, with this mostly undefended base, they could do some massive amounts of damage over time, but Zone Trooper is going to be moving through the middle, and actually the Rage Gen does go off. Will it be enough to do anything? The Marv doesn't really have anything friendly to attack, and neither do the Zone Troopers, but it does get locked down once again, and more Raider Buggies are going to be showing up. Two more are going to be blasting off EMPs, but it is going to be Shockwave Artillery probably going to be coming down for Technique, unless he's calling in Orcas. I don't know what else he would be calling in. I guess not Shockwave Artillery. It is going to be Orcas, and I'm just surprised that those attack buggies stayed in that same spot for long enough to get hit by the Orca strike, as it does come from all the way across the map. But this Marv could go down, and KiMOsaBE could end up winning this game, although no, because on the top side of the map, Technique going to be taking out a third MCV for KiMOsaBE, once again going to be taking out that MCV. That has just got to be so frustrating, and he is going to be bringing in the Shockwave Artillery to try and take it offline and prevent any sort of base defenses. Just now going to be EMP'd. I'm not sure. It looked like a couple of EMP blasts should have hit it before. But no, the Zone Troopers are going to be turning their attention to the Raider Buggies, which were doing some damage to their numbers, and they will be able to snipe all of those Raider Buggies. So just a moment too late for KiMOsaBE in this back and forth between these two players as they try and destroy each other, and just they can't gain a definite edge. An edge enough to really crush their opponent and move forward confidently. And once again, we enter the kind of this stalemate situation where Technique is trying to regroup and kind of actually should be harvesting this field like crazy. Should be bringing some more harvesters over there to try and grab that field, at least two. What in the world is happening? He could be harvesting directly to that refinery, and yet that harvester is heading all the way back home, and just one of those Zone Trooper, nope, two Zone Trooper squads do remain. I guess together they make one full Zone Trooper squad, but even a infantry squad from KiMOsaBE going to be getting in on the action a little bit, trying to go for that harvester, and another Raider Buggy snipe right. Oh, one more shot should be able to do it. No, and going to be escaping on out of there. That single Zone Trooper unit, he's going to be trying to be a hero, but you know what they say? Never try to be a hero because you end up dead or something. I don't know what they say. But one airfield is going to be remaining for Technique, and he is going to be building those 4 Orcas, sending them off, of course, laser fencing preemptively and keeping those watchtowers around just in case anything fancy tries to go down. Both of these players able to hold on to their Tiberium spikes so far into the game, which is kind of surprising in that you normally see those Tiberium spikes go down in the mid-game as both players snipe the opposing player's Tiberium spike just to kind of eliminate any sort of econ advantage that they might have, or to try and give themselves an econ advantage by eliminating your enemy's Tiberium spike. Technique going to be trying to do some harvester hunting. As you saw, he threw down a scan on that field, but he was not able to do anything. In fact, all he found himself was for Christmas was a couple of dead Orcas and a couple of dead attack bikes as well. So a even exchange in terms of number, as I do think that they went 2 and 2, but Orcas being a little bit more spendy. Just kidding, 3 Orcas do go down, so a huge mistake out of Technique in the late game where there is not a lot of Tiberium left on the map. although he's just now going to be harvesting this kind of original field, I guess. I was going to say the middle field, but it is definitely the original field for Technique, and he's going to be sending pit bulls over on the right side of the map, possibly just to curb this attack from KiMOsaBE. He's going to be bringing in a couple of attack bikes, trying to do some damage, and then he just turns them around and says, I'll attack another day, live and let live, something like that. And the Marv going to be moving in, but the Juggernaut is way far forward. It could get EMP'd or possibly shot up by a Spectre, or possibly both. Although I don't know if KiMOsaBE is going to be wanting to waste an entire EMP on that Juggernaut, unless, well, he does have 4 Raider buggies he should be able to manage. Where in the world is that Redeemer? Nowhere to be seen. Actually, nowhere on the map anywhere. Goodness, what even happened? The Redeemer was moving down the middle. Oh, perfect EMPs from that Shockwave Artillery, locking down the MCV in the move mode, which means it will go down in just a moment right there. About 2 hits, and that possibly could be it for KiMOsaBE. He doesn't really have a whole lot left on the map, and with the Raider buggies not actually EMPing right there, going to be swooping in and EMPing, but there's nothing to destroy this unit. Just kidding, the Redeemer coming from behind should be able to do damage, but he might want to go for the rig before the rig is able to unpack and provide repairs to that to the Marv, because right here, this is where Technique is going to have an advantage with those repairs. And the Juggernauts, are they going to be able to do any damage? They do get a couple of, the Juggernaut does get a couple of shots off, and the Zone Troopers do get called in. Can they switch around to the backside and protect the Marv from this Redeemer? And the Redeemer should go down in just a couple of more shots there. Right there, it does go down for KiMOsaBE. 4 MCVs do go down as the Redeemer Engineering Facility as well goes down. So I think Technique can finally wrap this game up. Yeah, right there, the sell-off from KiMOsaBE. GG to both of these players. Definitely, both of them playing pretty strong, fairly standard play, although Technique did go a little econ heavy in the beginning, and it did end up favoring him in the end. Let's take a quick look at that resource graph. That is what we're talking about. Technique going to be basically dominating that resource graph and the structures as well. He was able to basically lock down, do a lot of damage with his Orcas, which that damage output just wasn't matched by KiMOsaBE. And look at that supply discrepancy, not what we're talking about, but average income per minute, and only 30,000 resources difference for the entire game, which isn't a huge deal considering it was a pretty awesome 31-minute game. Technique and KiMOsaBE fairly recent as well, and so this is going to be Sybert signing out.